This is Nicole Aniston, and you're listening to Tanya Tate Presents Skinfluencer Success Podcast.
This is Tanya Tate. Skinfluencer Success.
You are listening to Tanya Tate Presents Skinfluencer Success Podcast. How can you use fitness, health, and mindfulness to create results? How does what you eat and your mindset determine your success? My guest is adult entertainer, Reiki master teacher, and enthusiast of the universally benevolent. Welcome, Nicole Aniston, to the Skinfluencer Success Podcast.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. I'm so excited that I've got you on, Nicole. It's just amazing. This podcast, I originally started it because it was something for me to share all the good things that I do and the positive thinking. And I love podcasts that are full of positivity. And just your introduction that you gave me, it's, enthusiast of the universally benevolent. I was like, it was so beautiful. And I was genuinely looking it up to be like, I need to know what this means. So, Nicole, tell everyone what it means. It's beautiful words.
Really just what I've been living since, really working through all of the old stuff that no longer serves me. And the adult industry has been such a wonderful catalyst to that. So life has changed dramatically. And now I seek out the benevolent, the universally benevolent. I've found it within myself, and I've cultivated it within my businesses, within my home, within my relationships. And it's been the perfect little mustard seed for the success and growth for the rest of my experience.
And that's wonderful, because that's really what I want to talk to you about. The way that we think and the way that we act and the way that we are, it really reflects. And I believe in, what you put out there, it's a reflection and it comes back to you. Mm-hmm. We're gonna get quite deep today, Nicole. I can feel it and I'm excited.
I feel it too. Agreed. I love it so much.
But tell everyone, me and you, we know each other because we're in the present tense. We know each other from when we were both original in a movie for Brazzers. I think that was probably one of the first times that we met.
I think so. That was many years ago. That was a while ago. Wow.
That was a Christmas scene. There was like 4 of us and Kieran Lee, of course. That was such a fun day. I got to tell you about that day. That was the day that I didn't realize that people like Kieran Lee, as a joker that he was, could get hold of your phone. And if you didn't put a lock on your phone, which I didn't, they can get onto your Twitter and they can send tweets. And that day, Kieran Lee sent a tweet on my behalf from my Twitter account that said, "I've just sharted."
He's so cruel. I know it's all in good fun, but my gosh, that man is just full of pranks up to his eyeballs.
Oh God, I was devastated when he posted it. But like now I can look back and I can be like, oh, it's quite funny. But I would never do that to somebody else.
No, and neither would I, because your phone is so much private information. I would never even touch another person's phone, let alone the things that Kieran Lee does to other entertainers' phones, and when you leave them open, he's a risk.
Oh my goodness. Oh, so that was the start of our day, but we had a great day. It was that Christmassy office scene. Mm-hmm. And yeah, it was a lot of fun. So tell everyone, Nicole, that's listening, how did you originally get started in the adult industry? And, take us a little bit through, your life. And I want to catch up to where you are now.
Well, getting started in the adult industry was really purely out of financial necessity. I had very little experience in the relevant activities that are required for the job that we have. And I wasn't sure that I liked it. I just didn't know what else to do. I had no qualifications. A diploma, great. That doesn't really get you a whole lot. And at the time when I got in, there weren't a whole lot of opportunities to make ends meet. And it ended up just being really serendipitous. A friend came into where I was working at the time, and I had never really known what he had done. And he said, do you want to, submit some photos and some videos and see what happens? And then within about a week, I had my first shoot with Reality Kings. I had some go-sees and things like that between then, which LA was very daunting. I wasn't even used to freeway driving, let alone the intense chaos that comes with being in Los Angeles.
So go sees, in case anyone's listening, that's like where you go to the different studios and they get to see you in person.
Yes, they pretty much, walk you in. Okay, let's see your body, turn around. What do you do? What do you don't do? All right, we'll give you a call. And that was great. That worked out. And then I had my first shoot, and I remember driving up to LA in my little truck that I had at the time. I had enough gas to get to LA, but I had $12 in my bank account and not a whole lot of a way to get home. And thank gosh, I was given a check that day. I went right to the bank and got some cash back and got gas and was able to get home. And I was like, oh my gosh, wow, by the skin of my teeth. So it was, it caught on quite quickly. It snowballed quickly. And soon, I had to leave the at the time, it was full-time, but part-time job because they had decreased my hours and things were just really tight. The moment I got into adult, things started to become very comfortable, and it really started to spark a lot of movement in my personal awareness. And it gave me a lot of spaciousness, both financially and with the excessive amounts of time and things like that I had on my hands that were really beneficial to just kind of opening yourself up to, I don't have to cram, numbers anymore. I'm not deciding toilet paper or water, like that kind of thing. So that was a really amazing moment to just have that spaciousness of financial freedom.
Yeah.
And it led to a lot of other wonderful things there on out. It just snowballed. I intentionally got in to make a couple bucks, and 13 years later, it's still going on. So it ended up pretty great.
Yeah. I mean, I can see why the producers and the studios and the companies, as soon as you walked in, you're very beautiful, and you've got a very beautiful body as well, I'm gonna say.
Thank you. A lot has changed. When I was 23, when I got in, it was, I was very different. My face was different. My hair was different. We've all had our fun share of cosmetic procedures to enhance ourselves and things like that. But at the core, I just knew, I can do this. This is fine. This is not a big deal. I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm sure there'll be a director or something to kind of help me through what I don't understand or what I don't know. And luckily in the beginning, the basics that I received as far as guidance and things were just sufficient to, help me kind of get my bearings a little bit.
Yeah. So, and it is, isn't it? It's like sometimes you go into something and it's an opportunity. It's a challenge at the same time, because, you're going in, you don't necessarily have that experience, but you're believing in yourself that, I can do it. Yeah. And listening to the cues and listening to the advice and, waiting for it to arrive and tell you. And it is sometimes it's like, that's how it works, isn't it? It's taking it in and then using that information to progress further.
And it was wonderful to have just the few first experiences be in that light, having someone who was kind enough and patient enough. They had been working with new young talent throughout the entirety of their adult careers as well. So it was nice to initially, work for Suze Randall. I mean, that was incredible. My first scene was shot by, Greg Lansky when he was still very hands-on. And at the time that he and I became friends, it was great, because at that time he was very helpful, very hands-on, very patient. And it was a very fun and lighthearted experience in the beginning. And it kind of helped, convince me, like, this is not that hard. This is actually pretty easy. If I just kind of watch where the lights are and watch where the mic is and, get my mark every time, just, knock out lines the first time. And so people started to, or companies started to kind of talk a little bit, I think, amongst themselves and just be like, oh, Nicole's actually pretty easy to work with. Like, she's not really wild on camera. She doesn't do a whole lot of wild stuff. She's pretty vanilla, but she's easy to work with. Like, she shows up for the most part on time. And so it was nice, like coming from a world of HR, sales, retail, having that little bit of background to just move into something and just have the basic life skills of being out in the world and being a struggling employee of another company. I just fit right in.
It is. It's, you're professional and you do a good job, and people will want you back on their set. And, in the business, people that don't do a good job, that turn up late, unless there's something really exceptional about you, there are people like that in our industry that all the rules go out the window because they are so in demand. But generally, they're not going to have you back. And people do talk. If you make a bad job or there's something not quite good happening on the sets. Mm-hmm. So it's going there with the right attitude and giving the best scene that you can.
That was huge. And I found that to be one of the strongest things I had going for me, was not my expertise in what we were actually filming, not my skill set, not my enthusiasm. And, for a while, not really because I was not physically confident at all. The industry has helped instill that in me and given me the spaciousness to become introspective, to learn how to love my body and to appreciate the way I look and to enhance my looks to a degree that I like the way I look. Now I'm happy with this at each interval by which I look this way now, and I looked that way 10 years ago. And so it was nice to just be accepted. I never really felt as a part of necessarily a family, or, you never really saw the same people 2 days in a row unless it was like for a feature. But in general, it was just, it was a comfortable thing to do. And it helped with, in an unexpected way, a lot of people who have, some kind of a desire to get into the industry because of, their previous physical encounters with others in an intimate way that have, been wild, and if they get into it for that reason, that's not always the best reason to get into it. Just because you have an incredible skill set, you have to be grounded. You have to find stability and some sort of like a grounding, a rock for just so that when you leave set and you're not someone else's product anymore, that you can come back into yourself and be okay. Because mentally and emotionally, it can really, rack your brain, and it can really make you, trigger you to question what you're doing, who you are, what you believe, what you want, and how you feel about what you're choosing. Because there's nonsense, just constant external noise trying to convince you that what you're doing is wrong.
For me, I feel like I'm a very, very grounded person. I can come in, I can do the job, I can leave, and then I'm back being me. But I do know at the beginning, you would go home, but you would still be that character on set. And I don't mean swinging from the lampshades and getting in bed with everyone, but in your mind, you are still that person that really you should have left at set. And I always found that a little bit strange at first, but like now, move forward, it's like, no, I am me, and it's definitely me, and I feel me when I'm at home. But for some people, if you don't have that stability, or you come in, or there's some issues that you might not be so helpful for you, there is a lot of noise, and there's a lot of things that could sway you in different ways that it might not be the best way to be swayed for you. So I'm so glad that you could stay grounded, and this is really good advice for people that are listening. Just come in and be you, and don't be led into it's a place where you can be easily led. Don't be easily led down the wrong path. Don't take the wrong journey. Just try and keep in mind for yourself. And if you're struggling, then talk to people, other people who are successful, other people who have taken the path or the journey that you might want to be on.
Mhm.
Look for those
Yeah.
people.
That was a little tricky for me in the beginning because I even saw around me at the time when I was starting to become in higher demand, I suppose, the others around me that were more highly sought after, that were more successful, earning more money, not having the best personal lives. And I never really found a lot of congruence in the early parts of my career with looking to someone else for guidance or help. And I know times have changed dramatically, and now there's countless wellness and mental and emotional health resources within the industry and outside of the industry that you can access for free, and communities that are happy to discuss wellness and emotional well-being with you, and not be biased based on what your career choice is.
Yeah.
And that was a trick looking around in the industry when I got in, not seeing a whole lot of others focusing on wellness, drinking water, getting sleep, not having a slew of untested partners. And that was such an odd thing to just come into an environment where I had never been exposed to those types of behaviors. And now everyone I was surrounded with was, hey, want to go grab a drink afterward? Or hey, want some drugs? And that was like, no, I want to go home and go to bed. And being able to commute from LA, living 2 hours away, I've never moved to LA where the epicenter of shooting and filming was going on. So it was nice to be able to have that at least 2 hour drive, sometimes 3.5, 4 hour drive, depending on traffic, just to get myself out of that mindset. Those behaviors are not what I correlate to. I don't ascribe to that mentality, and I need to get along well in this industry. And that was, I think, one of the best things I did for myself was when I couldn't find someone to relate to, I didn't have a hard time about it. I kept my good close few friends that were all non-industry. I haven't really had a whole lot of very intimate relationships with entertainers. I've dated, casually one or two, but in general, I've kept my distance because I'm the biggest introvert in the whole wide world, and my focuses are kind of irrelevant to the others that are within the industry. And I think that I would never recommend anyone to separate yourself from those who you work closest to. I would just recommend that whatever you feel is right for you, do that. And if it doesn't feel healthy, or if someone's trying to convince you or pull you along into activities or interests that are not really a heart-centered thing for you to choose, then just distance yourself from that and ask yourself, do I really love this? Do I want to participate? And as on set as offset, if there's something you don't want to consent to, then no is your answer. And no is a hard no. There is no wiggle room. No, maybe I'll pay you a little extra. None of that. So there's nothing really that ever convinced me to get too intimately tied with other adult entertainers. The distance from my home to where we were shooting was kind of great benefit to me.
Yeah.
But I've met some of the most incredible, wonderful people. I just haven't really gotten close with anyone. And I think that for me, that kind of worked. That kind of just worked a little bit.
Yeah. When we were first shooting, like all those years ago, when me and you both started in the industry, it was very, the companies, they shot you, they determined your bookings. And for me, I also started, webcamming, and I also had a website as well. So this was kind of like the way that it was for the adult performer. You did your scenes, you had your website. Did you have a website? Did you have was Puba doing your website?
Puba was doing the website, yeah, and we would make days here and there to shoot content for that, and those days seemed a lot more casual. And for some reason, I kind of felt like on those days when they were so much more enjoyable, shooting content with someone that the person and I privately agreed, let's shoot content on this day, let's test, okay, here's the location, here's what we're going to wear. That seems so much more cohesive than being a product for a corporation that suggested who you worked with, told you what to wear, what time to be there. That was all just, I don't know. The more I shot content for my own site, the more anticipation grew for hopefully that being the ultimate goal in the end of not shooting for all these companies and not being their product every day. It was wonderful. I'm glad
And
that
then we have moved forward. Here we are now in this day and age where most of us adult stars that are still in the industry, most
yeah.
of us are using premium social media
Mhm.
to with our fans, and I love the change that it's taken us in. It's taken us to a place where we can decide what we shoot, who we shoot with, what we do, the people we work with, and we're putting it up there, and we are getting intimate with our fans, and I think it's a great place for us to be right now.
I think so too. I do see, one of my partners on a project we're working with brought this to my attention. I loved how he put it. He said, every 20 years, something within the adult industry changes dramatically. There's VHS, then there's DVD, now there's this OnlyFans, and there's the kind of onslaught of Bitcoin. And so there's a lot of implications of how it's about to change again. And I think OnlyFans has been the precursor to something even bigger. What I love is that, yes, everything's transitioned over to where adult entertainers no longer have to bust so much butt to go be a product for another company who's going to continually profit off of your material for the rest of their existence as a corporation. Even after you kick the bucket and you die, they're still going to sell your product, and they can sell it
Yeah,
to an entirely different company.
yeah.
And we sign that away. We have our very long laundry list of paperwork and checks and things to sign and stuff like that when we do shoot for them. So we are consenting to that. However, I think that is on the way out as well. I think a lot of bigger name entertainers have started to kind of close the door on those days, and not to say that the companies have done anything wrong. That's just what has been going on for such a long time that's become the norm. And I'm really excited by the chaos in our industry, and that things are changing so rapidly, and people are they're starting to take precedence. Their lifestyles, their private lives, their preferences, their personal needs are becoming precedents for
Mhm.
entertainers. They don't want to go work with that person over there that they would never personally choose to be with in an intimate fashion. I don't want someone to choose my intimate partners for me. That is disempowering for me now. I want to choose my own, and I want to either pay that person or trade or something like that. That's far more of the kind of lifestyle I want to share with my fans if I'm going to be contributing to this type of media. I enjoyed it. I had fun. I chose this. I consented to this. This was all of my decision. So I love the way things are going on. I love that people are sick of the way things are, because that is only going to, breed more change.
So there is a lot of chaos going on right now, and people will say like there's instability and the way that things are changing, and there's a lot of governments that are trying to change things, and there's a lot of religious groups that are putting high pressure on different government departments. There is chaos, but I love this in that you can see through this chaos, and you're like seeing there's something bigger to come. What?
There is, yeah. And it's not going to be of religious influence. It's going to be of conscious influence. It's not going to be any sort of religious sect influencing governments to pressure people into doing or not doing anything, or spending their money certain ways, or spending their time, or exhibiting or experiencing their bodies in certain ways, or limiting their expression of their physicality. I don't think that religion will ever have that power. And there's a lot of attempts, and I have many friends that have different, spiritual and religious beliefs, and they're all absolutely entitled to believe what they find true to themselves. However, you may not infringe on anyone else's free will, because What's the first thing that any logical human being wants to do the moment they're told not to do it? They want to do it. They're gonna do it even harder and even more. So you cannot limit the freedom of expression and conscious expansion. We're evolving consciously, deliberately, intentionally, with more open-hearted awareness than ever before. In no matter if you're, in our industry, or you're a politician, or if you're an activist, or whatever role you are, no matter where you come from or what your background is, everyone is hoping for more freedom and more love and more compassion and forgiveness and just all of that good stuff. And anything that's attempting to limit the human experience is going to die and fall away.
This is something, I'm listening to this right now, and I'm kind of getting like really quite chilled. Nicole, I'm going to be sitting here and I'm going to listen back to this, because the words that you're giving me and everybody else that's going to be listening to this are very, very powerful words.
They are objectively true. My friend and I the other day were in a big department store, and we were looking at the products in the skincare section, just perusing. We've got our tea, and we're walking through, and we're just enjoying being out and looking at wonderful people shopping in the holidays and stuff. And we're looking at these products, and every label is now saying no animal testing, no gluten, no this, no that, no phthalates, no. There's so many things that are, and that's just the skincare department at a department store. That is so indicative. You look everywhere you look, there is more consciousness coming into, products that are being produced, concepts, politics, religion is changing, spirituality is becoming more of the stronger principle, rather than this set of rules that everyone must follow, or else you're going to this terrible place after you die. That, I'm sorry, that's no. So, but everyone's entitled to their belief system, but the human experience is about expansion. The universe, on the tiny, minute quantum level, up to every possible largest scale, is about expansion. And anything attempting to suppress evolution right now is going to fall away. That anything attempting to suppress that is a failed timeline. That's not going to be successful. The good stuff is going to be, the compassionate freedoms and things. And empathy, of course, is very important, but empathy is here, compassion is here, because you don't need to stoop to somebody's level of perceived momentary suffering to understand them and to give them love and kindness. So compassion is up here. You can kind of see where everybody's at from the level of compassion, rather than stooping down to the level of, I know how you feel, I've been there too. Oh my gosh, it's because nothing really is doom and gloom anymore. There's so much more optimism and excitement and good stuff happening in all areas of the human construct right now. You can see it in the way our foods are being produced. And if you choose to look at the negative aspects of what's going on, and if you don't understand the way universal chaos plays out of chaos comes order, always. It can't get any worse. It is only going to get better, because everyone is saying, we want respect, we want better food, we want clean water, we want equality, we want simple human basic equality for all human beings. And there's not going to be anybody sitting at the top, delegating who gets what rights anymore. That's just not going to happen that way. And it's like the with ants, if all the ants are all working towards a common goal, and yet if those ants were ever being suppressed by anything, you see anything try to intrude on in their mound or their colony, they all immediately attack that inhibitor or whatever is trying to suppress their common goal or their way of life. And I feel like once we kind of collectively realize our strengths as a human species, nothing will suppress us any longer. Nothing will be, poverty, sickness, terrible foods, and any kind of suppression whatsoever will just be will be eliminated because there will be nothing that will be in power that'll be able to suppress us.
I love some of the things that you're picking up on, and you're talking about food. So, for me, I changed my diet just over a year ago. And the reason why I changed my diet is because I was diagnosed with chronic Lyme disease, which is, your immune system. It's inflamed. And so I realized that if I change my diet and I change the way that I eat and the things I consume, my body felt so much more amazing. And, I was having these, when I first, wondering what was up with me. I was so weak, so tired, and my muscles would fatigue, and I'd wake up and my legs would feel like I'd run a marathon. I'd have to sit down to make breakfast. It was pretty rough while I was managing it. And then to think back now, all the clean eating that I do and the way that my body is, it's like a complete turnaround. So
It's
you
amazing.
yeah,
Yes.
I know you are a practicing vegan, and I know this is, you consume good foods, and I also know that, you believe in what you eat is going to help, change us. So talk to me a little bit about food, because I'm excited, because I'm going to soak all this in.
I love food. I grew up with a very sadly redneck type upbringing, which, to put it lightly, was very, a lot of processed foods, a lot of meat, a lot of potatoes, milk, like tons of cow's milk, tons of cow's milk, big glasses of it with every meal. And I've been vegan for over 10 years. And when I was a few years into the industry, I started having chronic health issues, chronic, recurring, very serious, debilitating, odd experiences that were going undiagnosed. And I had a high white blood cell count for 2 years. And they said at about the 2 year mark, they said, well, you're going to need to see an oncologist because there's something seriously wrong here. And there just was no way. And I was on my way back from the East Coast on a very long flight. And I watched I watched Vegucated, Forks Over Knives, and one others, just small documentaries about a plant-based lifestyle and about the animal agriculture industry. And I couldn't unsee what I witnessed, which was really beneficial for me because I knew what I knew. I couldn't unknow it, and I couldn't ignore it when I landed in California. So I literally got home completely exhausted. I threw out all of my processed foods, all of my dairy, all of my meat, no more milk, no more cheese, no honey, no, like nothing. No meat at all, no fish. And about 2 months later, I had my first normal white blood cell count in over 2 years. And that was so dramatic that I just thought, this works for me. This works for me. And of course, I think a lot of vegans can attest to the phases you kind of go through where when you first go plant-based, where you go through this massive detox process. I went plant-based first, cut out a bunch of the yuck, and then started to detox about, right off the bat from the inflammation and things like that, but then hit a pretty hardcore reset after about 2 or 3 years of being vegan. I went mostly raw foods, kind of earlier on, and that really aided in a lot of the inflammatory things I was having going on. And for some reason, cleaning up my diet and the more, intense, highly concentrated nutrients that I was consuming, and the detoxifying the black foods like charcoal and shilajit, and then, zeolites and heavy doses of cilantro, just simple things, spirulina, chlorella, supplementing with B12 because I needed to do that, and D3, K2. I was learning. I was like just a sponge trying to learn as much as I could about what was going to give me the best physical experience, what was going to keep my body healthy and capable as long as possible. So it became a great fascination, a great love. It was very easy to learn. It happened. It just really came to me quite easily. I became a fitness nutrition specialist through NASM just so that I kind of knew I had a little bit of a formal education on nutrition for what my physical and fitness goals were, and was a little ashamed to say that during the NASM course, there were a lot of anti-vegan subject matter, quite a great deal of it. And it was very, saying, oh, you can't be healthy, you can't do this long term, you shouldn't do it long term, it's not good for this, it's not good for that. And I'm a living example that my blood comes back great, my fitness is better than it's ever been. I'm stronger, physically stronger than I've ever been. I hold muscle. If I want to cut down, I can. If I want to bulk up, I can quite easily. And it's just worked for me quite well. And now that as the science is starting to come out, they are finding that a mostly plant-based diet for most people is the best thing for anti-inflammatory and for longevity purposes. Yeah. And including organic foods, avoiding genetically modified foods, avoiding glyphosates, pesticides, heavy metals, and then detoxifying from the things that are just common environmental toxins. I was excited to learn, what does the body accumulate? What heavy metals set up camp in the body, and what do those heavy metals prevent the body from doing? And so that became a great love, because the more I tried these different modalities for wellness, the greater I felt, the more I was functional and clear-headed and thoughtful, and I slept better, and my periods were normal, and just everything. My hair was growing like crazy. My skin was happy. I mean, everything in my entire body rejuvenated itself, and I felt like a butterfly coming out of a chrysalis. I felt like just completely renewed out of this shell. And so I had seen countless examples of those who used diet and nutrition to transform their entire lives, and kick everything from myopathy to inflammation to degenerative diseases, cancer, all kinds of the big ones, and mitigating a lot of these symptoms so that even their technically lifetime diagnoses were manageable. Yeah. And so that someone could still live a very comfortable and functional life of wellness, even with this thing that they just need to be mindful that they do have in their body, and that nothing is an end all be all.
Just when I kind of got the diagnosis of like the chronic illness in my body, it was very difficult because it was at a difficult time. And, they say that when your body is under a lot of stress or it's had a shock, things change in your body. And for me, my 21-year-old brother passed away very unexpectedly. And that was very traumatic. But I thought I was okay, but it's my body showed I wasn't. And to come on leaps and bounds, at one point I couldn't properly work out. It was very debilitating. And now I'm back in the gym and I'm working with my personal trainer. But I know that I want to get to the next level. I want to get there. My weight, when you first start eating different foods, your weight changes. And yes. I think I was very scared to eat certain foods, and I was scared. There was a lot of unknowns. But for me now, it's, moving forward with the food. I'm doing, there's a lot of food. And Nicole, I'm going to say this to you. I'm going to ask you, can I talk to you afterwards about 1, fitness, and 2, food? Because I look at your body, and I'm going to tell you this as well. There was a picture of you that you put on your Instagram, and I just looked, and when you have to visualize how you want to be, because if you want to move forward, you have to sit there and you have to visualize, and like, where do I want to be? What do I want to do? And you put yourself there, and you put yourself in that mind frame, and you picture yourself, and you feel how you are when you're doing that workout, and when you look at yourself in the mirror and all the things that you feel. And I picked your picture, and I said to my personal trainer, look, vegan, strong, looks amazing.
Thank you.
And I went, goal. And I
Thank you.
Very, very inspired, like very inspired.
I'm so happy to share what I know all the time. Because, it's worked for me, and I've tried my best not to be preachy about the vegan thing. It's been a little hard because, when you first learn what you learn about animal agriculture, it's hard not to say, look, everybody, look what's going on. Look where your food comes from. It's super gross. Why are you going to eat that? Because I want people to have the integrity to I guess just the cognizance of where your food comes from. If you're not pulling it out of the garden in your backyard, and you know how your water quality is and what pesticides were in the ground before you moved there. Has anybody been spraying Roundup in your backyard? Like, unless you know for sure, like, you have to kind of go by the industry standard, which is organic is the best way to go. And the way pesticides can accumulate in foods and have been attributed to great, massive amounts of debilitating diseases, especially in westernized cultures where those are really prominent. You see people with inflammatory diseases all the time, and no one wants to lift that veil really to correlate these two things. And it's really important. And inflammation, stress, things like that, and exhaustion, grief, things like that, they can really add to the body's awareness of what you're considering, what you're thinking about and believing. And I found that as my health changed, my interests changed. As my interests changed, my beliefs changed. And so it was this really interesting cycle of detoxifying from what I found that I needed to be doing. When you first get into the industry, you think, oh, I'm going to have steak and lobster and it's going to be wonderful, and I'm going to have caviar. And then you're like, well, that's not going to make me feel really good. A lobster is what a lobster is. A steak comes from where a steak comes from. And for me, I couldn't unlearn those things. And I couldn't unlearn what happens within the body when you do eat something that's inflammatory. And it's immediate. It's as soon as that hits your tummy. And so for me, it just made sense. I'm going to do what my body likes. And I'm also going to, when the food's in front of me, it sounds a little woo-woo. But when I have my big plate of veggies or my, I never miss that on anything. I've got my pastas and I've got my stews and big bowls, salad on occasion, but I'm not really a salad person.
Salad.
So I'm not really like salad.
It doesn't fill you up. Salad doesn't fill you up.
No. And, when I go home and I make salads, it's mostly like a mishmash of all kinds of wonderful, complex carbs, fiber, protein, wonderful fat, these so complex, and it's so nutrient dense. There are omegas, and there's good sauces, and there's no GMOs, and there's not a lot of salt, and there's not a lot of oil. And it's very, very simple, just plant-based whole foods. And that has made me feel so good. And when it's in front of me now, before I eat my meal, I am just in such gratitude for the distance this food has come to reach me, the people that have been involved in cultivating this meal that's sitting right in front of me. What an incredible honor and privilege it is to have a plate of food that I didn't have to grow, hunt, kill, anything. It is just right here. All I had to do was prepare it. What an incredible blessing. So now when I have every meal or I have every beverage that I have, even if it's just a glass of water, I say, thank you. Thank you so much. Dr. Emimoto, I think, did this water research where he he found that he was able to program water with an intention. And because there's water in everything, it was just the implications of these experiments were incredible, and they really stuck with me. He was able to, under a microscope, for example, take a glass of water and have his research participants speak and feel an intention into the water. And then he would take a little bit of the water under a microscope and with the frozen, water molecules, look at the shapes that they produced. And the shapes that the frozen water molecules produced under a microscope with love and gratitude and thank you and kindness was this beautiful, intricate, just stunning, fractalized snowflake of a pattern. And it was just incredible. It made you feel so full of love. And then when you looked at the water where the participants in the research were speaking negative, things like, I hate you, you're wrong, you're stupid, like just negative things. The water molecules took on a completely different, disgusting, utterly terrible shape and color that were frozen in this microscope. You could see visibly the effect that your emotional intention had on water. And so if that can do that, and repeatable, constantly by different researchers. It wasn't just this particular doctor's research. It's been done countless times over.
Yeah.
And so what makes up most of our bodies? We're mostly water. And our foods, especially, me and my plant-based foods, it's a lot of water. The peppers, the cucumbers, and everything. There's so much water in our foods. And so why not program the food with the intention by which you wish to consume it with? And why not treat your body with that same kindness, knowing that your intention that you're speaking into that mostly water, environment is going to take shape and hold on to and record. Water has memory, they say, because it does hold this intention energetically, and it does display it in a visible way. So it's not arguable, it's non-negotiable. It really is that way. So, but just having that gratitude for your food, whatever you're eating, if you're omnivorous, if you're vegan, whatever, just having that gratitude for your food. I love the correlation. I heard someone say that they always used to bless their food before eating, and when I was younger, I thought, oh, that's kind of silly and not really this nonsense. And then I realized there's so much science behind it. There's so much science behind it. But if the fitness came really with the conscious change of wanting to feel better sooner. I wanted to rectify my health issue. Then when that was out of the way and I was no longer struggling to feel well most days, I felt good all the time. And I had an infinite amount of energy. And still to this day, I'll be in the gym for 3 hours and I'm like, oh crap, I gotta go. I've been here all day because I have so much energy. And if I want to grow my butt, or I want big giant biceps, or you can cater your body to your exact specifications with diet and intention alone. If you have the strong enough intention and trust that your body will mirror how you feel about it, your body will change rapidly, including diagnoses. And our ability to self-heal is so unique to our species. It's incredible. We're very resilient.
I love all of this. I'm really, really soaking it in, because for me, this is meaning a lot. Now, people might be listening and they might be like thinking, "Oh, I'm not getting this," or it doesn't. It's going over their heads. It's not for everyone to take on these beliefs, but what we're saying is, the intentions. There are scientific experiments, and there's a lot of this, like the Dr. Teller and Dr. Joe Dispenza, and a lot of like these doctors talk about things, and they've set up different experiments, and they can prove certain things. So I think for someone wanting to start off to change the way that they think, you got to take baby steps, because for someone to say, we can see in experiments, this is happening, you've got to kind of want to be able to say, well, I want to change the way I think. I want to be more positive. I want to be more mindful. I want to show, compassion, and I want to self-heal and improve. And there's a place how to get there. So what advice would you give to somebody that's kind of right at the beginning, that's saying, look, I want to make some changes to my life? Where do they start? Is it meditation? Are they looking online? Give some advice, Nicole.
I would say meditation is always a wonderful place to start. I didn't start personally meditation until far into my health journey. As things started to pop up that were a little anomalous and unique to my experience, that led me into meditation. So, that may not be for everyone either, starting off meditating. For me, I started off learning. I was the science-minded person who wanted the technicals. I was myopic in my thinking, very reductionist, I wanted hard, concrete facts before I did anything. And my myopic mind went to a plant-based diet because it made sense to me. And, even if that's not the extreme you want to go to, I was the person that was ignorantly telling people, if you have too much soy, you're going to get gynecomastia. And that is complete fucking lie. Excuse my language. Complete lie. But it was what, had been perpetuated. So I would say, number one, start to kind of look for the esoteric media, for the Joe Dispenza, for Gaia.com is a really good place to start. There's a lot of holistic and therapeutic wellness modalities there, both for meditation, for yoga, for expanded consciousness. It's almost like a consciousness-based, wellness-based Netflix type of subscription media station. So, but just, look for things that interest you, and look for not the one that's plastered all over normal social media. Maybe not the one that's all over regular mainstream media. Look for the ones that are being ignored. Look for the ones that have, if you're looking for a trainer, look for the ones that aren't, just pushing people to their absolute brink and cutting carbs and macros and this and that. And I mean, I've been, weight training for 15 years and I've never counted macros. That really isn't in my game plan. I'm also not training for anything because I don't like competition-based stuff. But I train and I work out for my wellness. And listen to your body, I feel like listening to your body is one of the biggest things. When I first started, it was most beneficial because I could tell, at the end of the day, I was exhausted. I would, 3-4 cups of coffee, sometimes more. I was impatient. I was angry at people just for being themselves. It was always everyone else's fault besides me, for my experiences. So just kind of look around and examine to yourself, how happy are you with what you've currently got? And, try to become mindful of your thoughts and beliefs. And if you can kind of not track every thought, not trying to micromanage your thought process, because that's unhelpful and it just makes you feel bad about yourself, but just become gently and softly and forgivably mindful of what you think and believe on a regular basis. If you're looking to change, that's where it starts. It starts with what you think and feel about your experience. And sometimes that means dissociating from certain people you spend a lot of time with, or certain activities, or a job, or certain responsibilities that you have that maybe keep you from having the ability to have a healthy breakfast, or be able to get a sufficient lunch break. Or sometimes it means some lifestyle changes, and sometimes it means in the transitional period what you may perceive as some sacrifices. However, I can attest to, once I started putting in the effort, the conscious, deliberate desire to change what I was currently experiencing, everything around me shifted. Opportunities came out of thin air as if by magic. New people, new experts, new books, new videos, new exercises. And, it just, once I left myself wide open to, I'm going to learn as much as I possibly can, and not necessarily cherry pick, but I'm going to be decisive about what I choose to incorporate in my lifestyle surrounding what I learn around me that is going to be best for me, not what someone else says I should be doing. Because there's a million people saying I should absolutely be eating meat or I'm going to die tomorrow. And nobody has ever heard of kwashiorkor. Kwashiorkor is a protein deficiency. But everybody always asks, where do you get your protein from? How are you not dead yet? So it's very subjective. Some things work for some, but not for others. So just know that no matter what outside influence is attempting to coerce you into, fear-based thinking, that's something good to kind of step away from and think, gosh, do I really feel, is that a belief or thought or practice that I'm incorporating in my life based on fear? And that I feel like when I started distancing myself from fear-based and scarcity-based thinking, I started to have the spaciousness to decide for myself what I really wanted out of my experience. And it was a gentler thought process than we're conditioned in westernized living to incorporate and to live by. And for me, it changed my diet, my lifestyle, the clothes I wear, the people I associate with, and the jobs that I take. So sometimes it doesn't always look like everyone else's success on social media. And that's the best part, is that it can be yours specifically to your specifications, and it can be uniquely yours. It can be beautiful and wonderful and very prosperous and plentiful. It doesn't have to be, the Instagram wellness that we've all kind of been conditioned to think that we want. So it's very subjective. It's very unique, and everybody's got to kind of just pursue the that constant desire to feel better sooner. I think that
Mm-hmm.
that's just the core, easiest thing to do.
Yeah.
And just let come what comes. Let that book fall in your lap. Let that researcher fall in your lap. Watch some videos and try some different things, and observe without judgment. Just kind of look around and see what's coming into your reality, and then ask yourself how you may be attracting that.
It's all these things are going to start falling into your lap. If that's what you want to do, if you want to seek things out, they really do. Just the opportunities I found just come right in front of you, and it's like, oh, that's exactly what I was looking for. That's just what I
Interesting.
needed.
Wow. Yeah. I love that. And it really makes life so much more exciting. And the physical experience, we have been conditioned into this really depleted physical state. And I feel like because we are so constantly focused on sense gratification, our bodies hurt, we're tired, we have too much to do, we're amped up on stimulants constantly, or downers to knock us off so we can sleep in a thorough way and get our rest and rejuvenation. But that's not, I feel like, the way that our great Mother Earth would want us to be. I feel like it's a very artificial, sanitized version of life, when we should be having authentic experiences. We should be having being on the leading edge of thought means having unique experiences, just cultivating your own unique way to go about doing things. And find something that someone else is doing, take that inspiration and use it in your own unique, authentic way. And that goes for health and fitness and dietary choices. But if you're seeking wellness, it's got to be all or nothing, kind of. You'll find that, like, the further you get into seeking wellness, that one little thing off to the side that you've been ignoring for 10 years, even unresolved traumas, will sneak themselves up into your present awareness and be like, remember me? You're going to have to deal with me now because you want wellness. So it's great. You kind of have to just take what comes, because the wellness will come in all facets of life,
Mm-hmm.
and no dark corner will remain, non-illuminated.
Nicole, this is just like I knew, having you on as a guest, when you agreed to be a guest, I knew that this was something that I really, really wanted to share with people. And this is, we're adult performers and we're sharing, but we're sharing like the backbone, like the things that you don't see on camera, the things, the mindset, and how we're getting to the places that we're getting. And anyone that's listening can do the same. You can get to be where you want to be.
Mm-hmm.
Life, fitness, everything. You just need to think that you want to be there, and then start making those positive steps.
Mm-hmm.
And reaching out and finding them. I'm going to make one change to myself that's really, really helpful. As I was sitting there and I was listening, and I'm like, okay, listening to the fear. So I like to listen to news. And I was listening to it this morning while I was getting ready for our podcast. And I'm listening to it and I'm like, I feel so sad because I'm taking on inside me all this grief and pain and everything that I'm hearing, and people are dying. And I'm like, I can't handle this anymore. I'm sitting there and I'm like, I got to do something about this. And you've just come on here and you've just said, don't listen to the fear factor. And I'm like, that's the news. She's telling me stop listening to the news. And then you give me a thought to replace it with. So Gaia.com, there's so much on there. There is so much, YouTube's been my friend. YouTube's great. It's great to start off on YouTube. But I'm like, I keep saying Gaia.com. I knew exactly what you meant when you said it. It's a whole collection. And I'm like, you know what? One simple thing, replace the news with stuff on Gaia.com. And that is straight away, I can already feel it going on in my body saying, this is what you need to do.
Oh, yeah.
No one's ever got me crying on my podcast, but
crying is the best. Crying is the best.
Oh.
And that's, your body and your emotions. And I know this is a Reiki master. When I hit something in a client's chakra system, when there's something stuck and they just burst into tears, that's how you know you've got it, and it's coming out and it's coming to the surface to be released and resolved. So how wonderful. But gosh, it is. there's so much and increasingly more every day, more information, because everybody wants the same thing right now. They want compassion, they want forgiveness, they want truth, no matter how ugly and terrible it is. And, I think that's where mainstream media has really hit home with a lot of us, where we watch it and we're immediately, in the fight or flight, which our nervous systems are so sensitive, and our subconscious doesn't know the difference. So when we watch a fearful image of real things happening to real people, we're becoming more so unconditionally compassionate that we see people and we can no longer ignore it. We are struck with the same fear and agony that we experience. Others are a world away in a country that we've never been to, experiencing these traumas because they're so relatable. And they're on an individual level. A lot of people will be listening. Well, what can I do? What should I do? I can't go there and I can't do this. And the best thing that I always recommend to everyone who just gets caught up in the current narrative that everything is failing, which is not the truth. That's just what one aspect of current human civilization's media is attempting to portray to us, that everything's going to heck in a handbasket. And that's not real. It's just the good stuff's not being highlighted. And there's so many wonderful things to be grateful for, including in our own little basic, simple, smaller lives. So why not just understand that there are things going on? One of the greatest things, there's this thing called morphic resonance, which is amazing. They have this practice experiment that they had several decades ago with the meditation. They had 7,000 people meditating, as best they could, just meditating in a group at the same time. And they had dramatic and drastic concurrent drops in terrorism, domestic violence, murders worldwide from 7,000 people. So the meditation effect is really real. But if you aren't familiar with meditation, or it's not something that interests you as an individual, I would always recommend, just if you see something that really rattles you, that is real and is really going on, and you feel helpless, be as conscious as you can in your own personalized, intimate experiences day to day, to be as compassionate and forthcoming and honest as you can. Even if it's as simple as you're up at the register about to order your latte, and just have a genuine, non-perfunctory interaction with whoever you're interacting with in that day. Not just, hi, I'll take because that, you can just change someone's life. You can literally affect someone's entire life with one compassionate, genuine interaction. And that's how that spreads. That's how that resonance, it's that pebble in the pond effect. You throw one little pebble, eventually the ripples will reach every edge of that body of water. And that's how the vibration effect works from a compassion level as well. So it's about us all doing what we can, not to go out and save the world, because that's too big a job. It's taken hundreds of years and trillions of dollars to get the earth and humanity into the catastrophic phase that it's in right now, that's being portrayed by most media. So look to the alternative medias, find compassion within your daily experience, and make it your own. Make your own world the most compassionate, gentle, calm, and collected place that you can on a regular basis. And you would be amazed at what changes in the lives around you.
Thank you so much, Nicole. I could have you go on, but I'm like, we've only got so much time, and there was so much more that I wanted to talk to you about, but we didn't get there. But you know what? The message is clear. Be compassionate, and let's start making some changes in our lives.
Yeah.
And
we deserve it. We deserve to be healthy and happy, literally happy all the time. Not just for little segments here and there when we're feeling good or when we're drunk or high. We deserve to be unconditionally happy all the time. And I think that's where we're headed. I really do. I'm so excited. I'm excited about the chaos because it ultimately is going to lead to more order, and I can't wait for that.
I'm very, very, very excited. I'd say I could just keep going on with you, Nicole, but I've got to stop. Tell everybody where they can find you online.
Twitter is X Nicole Aniston X. Look for a blue check mark. Instagram is Real Nicole Aniston, blue check mark as well. Closer to Nicole.com is what we've been working on pretty hard lately, and community's growing, and Discord is attached to that. So our Discord members are just some of my favorite people. OnlyFans is X Nicole Aniston X as well, if they'd like to see some of my recent stuff like that. But you can find me on the internet. I'm easy to find. I'm all over the place.
Thank you. It's been absolutely amazing, wonderful experience having you here on the podcast. Thank you, Nicole Aniston, for coming on the Skinfluencer Success Podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been an honor. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
This is Tanya Tate. Skinfluencer Success. Visualize your success.